1st of January, Rabbi Levitt, Gemora.
I think I'm ready.
Yeah. Where are we up to?
2. The Gemara explains. Halfway after that.
Well, he doesn't know what that, he said what happened.
Let's see. Oh. Oh yeah, okay. Okay. We couldn't be more right in the middle of something than we are. Okay, so yes, what is the subject of the first of all, let's just tell you where we're up to. We are on Kuf Yud Zayin Amid Aleph 117a. That's number 1. We're on 117a. And then we are towards the very top of the Amud. And we've gotten up to where the Gemora has said, Lo, Mikara Sabre Karev Avin, Ulubasof Sabre Karebi Yirmiyah.
117A2, right-hand column, 3rd paragraph. Rabbi Yosef rejects this proof.
Yeah, this proof. So let's just read the Gemara over here. Let's get back into it, and we'll answer the question of what's this proof referring to in the course of doing so.
Okay.
So, but right now we're focused on trying to explain that there's 2 views over here. There's the view of Rebbe Avin, and then there's the view of Rebbe Yirmiyah. And we're going to see how they are different from one another. The more is going to say that we originally thought like Rebbe Avin, and then we changed, and seemingly that's what we did. Seems like that's what we did, and we went over to the side of Rebbe Yirmiyah in regard to this matter that we're talking about over here, which we're not going to talk about because we don't want to get mixed up over here. Okay, so let's just see what the Rebbe Avin says and what does Rebbe Yirmiyah say. So we're up to Meikara Sabre Karebi Avin.
Okay, what page is that?
That's 117A2, the 3rd paragraph. The Gemara explains on the right-hand column.
All right. I'll read it.
Okay, Alan, go.
Gemara explains, me koror so v right to Rabbi Avin. They originally held in accordance with Rabbi Avin. The made Rabbi Avin, for Rabbi Avin said, Zor Raf Chetz Arba Mis Chivor Arbor Valaf Arbar. If one shoots an arrow in the public domain on the Sabbath from the beginning of a 4 amah stretch to the end of a 4 amah stretch, an act that carries the death penalty. And the arrow tore someone's silks as it traveled. Putter, he is exempt from paying for the silks. Shaharei, Kiror, Sorech, Chinor, he, for the Akira, for the arrow, i.e. the flight, the taking flight is a prerequisite of its harakah, i.e. the coming to rest. Mis ka yev, beneath show, and is thus a part of the act for which he is liable to pay with his life. Although the moment in which he became liable to pay for the silks, while the arrow was in flight, preceded the moment in which he became liable to the death penalty. When it landed, we nevertheless view these liabilities as having been incurred simultaneously, since the arrow's flight. The Akira is essential to the landing, the Hanukkah, when one incurs a monetary liability simultaneously with a capital offense, he becomes exempt from the monetary obligation. Therefore, this fellow is exempt from paying for the silks. Likewise, in the case of one who renders someone's wine nesek, as soon as he lifts the wine, and he has committed an act of theft for which he incurs a monetary liability. Thus, he becomes liable to the death penalty for idol worship only later when he pours the wine as a libation for the idol. Still, since he must lift the wine to perform the libation, the act of idol worship is considered to have been begun with the lifting of the wine. If it therefore exempts him from paying for the simultaneous act of theft, the Tanaim of the Brisa at first held like Rabbi Avin, and they therefore assume that one who renders someone's wine nesek is exempt. Believe Bay Self Severe Karibi year more excuse me. But in the end, they held like Rabbi Miriam. Marabi Yerimor, Rabbi Yerima said regarding the one who renders someone's wine nesek, Mish Nibor Kanor, from the moment he lifted the wine, he acquired it as a stolen property. Rave Lee, more known, and immediately becomes liable to pay money for having stolen it. Benif show low on V odd she'es self, but he's not liable to pay with his life until the moment he pours the wine. This means that he did not become liable to the death penalty until after he became liable to pay. Therefore, he is liable to pay for the wine he rendered nesek. Then it goes to a Rashi.
Okay, that's enough for now. Very good. Thank you, Alan.
Okay.
So now we're going to take a look at Rashi. Rashi starts over here. I guess you could start with the Zarketz and then go to the main Rashi of Akira Tzarech Hanacha. And Phil, you want to do the honors?
Okay. Wait a second. Let me just find the spot again. I know we started this yesterday. Okay.
Bottom of the Bach.
The bottom of the Bach. The bottom of the Bach.
Of the Bach.
Yeah, the Zarketz. Yeah, just almost where the Gillian of Shas is a couple lines above that, in the middle of the Bach. Zorach hates that he throws this arrow. Shabbos, he's doing it on Shabbos. Now it's Akira Tzorech Hanacha. So this is the Akira is you're throwing this projectile, and it also needs Hanacha, needs to be landed also. In a sense, to be liable b'Shabbos, it has to have both actions. You have to have a sending it out of the domain, and then it's being accepted in another domain. It says the Kaven, since the Bain Akira Hanacha, between the throwing the projectile and the landing of the projectile, Korah, it's called Nimtza Ma'aseh Shabbat, which was found to be an action of Shabbos. Umaisa Akira, in the act of an Akira, which is the throwing of the projectile. Bach is going to say something on that anyway. The aim ka'achad. It's not like one action. The low amrina, we don't say mishas akira chayev at the time that he just throws the projectile, that he's chayev momon, that he's chayev the money. Chayev v'nafsho, and being chayev with his his nafsho means that he be held liable for Shabbos violation. Low, also no. The ad asanach until it lands, until the landing of this arrow thing that he sends. The hacha here nami also hagbat yayin, picking up the yayin for nayinesech tzarech nisach, it needs to be poured. Have in tashlumim and its payment v'chiyov misa, he'd be chiyov misa on that. The Avodah Zarah, on for doing Avodah Zarah. The Ein Kachad, because it's not like one action. It's not one action of throwing and except getting it in the domain.
Okay. Okay, right. So he zorked this case, and it's on Shabbos. So there's going to be a violation of the Lamed Tes Malachos of Hotzah, of taking something from a Rishus Yachid and putting it into a Rishus Rabbim, or the opposite. Either way, but so there has to be two elements. There has to be an akira, a uprooting of the item from this rishus, and then a hanacha, a settling down in a different rishus. And so until the hanacha is done, settling down in the second rishus, there's no chiyuv for the Ma'aseh Shabbos. And in the course of this arrow going through the air, it tears some expensive silk. And so there's actually two things that this arrow does. It makes the person in violation of Shabbos, and it also makes him a mazik, that he's damaging somebody's silk. And so we got a principle over here called Kimle b'derabamine, that when someone is subject to the more severe penalty of misa, it could potentially be misa if he does so after having been warned that he's about to do a malacha on Shabbos and that it has a sentence of misa to it, and he goes ahead and disregards that and does it, so it has a potential to be chayiv misa. And so since he's liable for that potential penalty of misa, so if it comes together at the same time that he was liable for the monetary obligation to pay for the silk. So then there's a principle kimle b'derabamine that we judge him only on the more heavy penalty, and then the lesser obligation is he's exempt on. But that's only if they come together. That's what Rashi says over here. Boin ke'echad. We're saying that according to Rabbi Avin, the way that he's understanding the dynamics of the cases, the two liabilities are boin ke'echad. They come together at the same time. And also he says, and so what does that have to do with us? Because we're discussing this case where a person was guilty of pouring out wine for avodah zarah. So over there also, we're talking about two violations. We're talking about a violation of avodah zarah, and we're also talking about an obligation for stealing somebody else's wine, because it was done apparently with somebody else's wine. So there we're saying the same thing, that at the time that he lifted up the wine, that was that was called so even though it's also a two-step process, he's got to lift up the wine in order to pour it out to actually do the avodah zarah. But since the pouring out requires him to lift up the wine, so it's comparable to the case of the arrow damaging the silk. It was also an akira, which was l'sarach hanocha. So because really, when you think about it for a second, they don't come together. If you look at it in a very strict sense, you would say, look, when is he chayav for damaging the silk? When it's in midair before it lands, and it tears the silk in midair. That's really, at that point he's already chayav, and at that point he's really not yet obligated in a Shabbos violation, because it hasn't made a hanacha yet, and a hanacha, the landing, is a prerequisite to him being liable for the malacha of hotzah. And similarly, in the case of the wine libation, really, the moment that he picks it up and does a hagbah, he's already chayiv for gezela at that point. Pouring it out has nothing to do with the gezela. So really, he's chayav to pay for gasoline it even before he was ever guilty of doing any avodah zarah. So how do we understand, in other words, that these two things are boin ke'echad, the gezel or the hezek, together with the Shabbos violation and the avodah zarah? That's the svara of Rebbe Avin. Rebbe Avin says that because we're calling it an akira, which is l'tzorach hanacha. It's however you want to explain it. You can explain it however you'd like to explain that. What do the words mean? The words mean that the first part of the malacha needs the second part of the malacha in order to be chayiv. And what that will do for us, according to Rabbi Avin, will be that it's regarded as the entire the whole malacha, the whole continuum, from the beginning of the akira all the way until the end of the malacha, with the hanacha landing on the ground, is really all called that's called the time of the malacha, that the malacha is being done, that he's chayav for. And so practically speaking, if the nezik occurred at any time in that interim between the akira and the hanacha, since the akira is l'tzorach of the hanacha, so therefore he's going to be chayav. Therefore it's called that the gezel, rather the hezek, is taking place boin ke'echad together with the malacha, and therefore that will mean that he'll be exempt based upon the principle of kimle b'derabamine. So that's the view of Rebbe Avin. So that's Rebbe Avin. Okay, and now, so that's what the Chachamim originally understood the din should be, and then they did it about face. They said no. They said the view of Rabbi Yirmiyah is the view that we subscribe to. The view of Rabbi Yirmiyah is that no, we don't say like Rabbi Avin. We don't put it all together. They don't come together. They come in the one first the Nezek comes, and then the Shabbos violation comes after that. And similarly, in the case of the wine, first the Gezel comes when he lifts it up, and that comes before, and it doesn't come at the same time as his being obligated for avodah zarah, which only happens when it's poured. So that's the simple approach, without all of this complicated akira tzorach hanacha and making it all one act, and therefore it's boin ke'echa, they come together. No, we go like Reb Yirmiyah, and according to that, what will be the nafkamina? What will be the practical difference in the halacha between the two of them? Is according to Reb Yirmiyah, he will be chayav for both penalties. He'll be chayav for the gezel and also for the avodah zarah. He'll be chayav for the nezek and also for the Shabbos violation, because they did not come together. And if you're wondering, that's all very nice, but what does that have to do with what we were talking about before, about mixing up truma together with chulin? Yeah, does anybody remember that that's what we were talking about?
No.
No, you don't remember that? You got to hold up. Okay. So listen, if you don't remember that, so then we can go on. Okay.
The minor loss and the major loss, Rabbi?
Right. In other words, we were trying to this whole thing with Rabbi Yirmiyah of Avin, that's coming to explain something that we had unresolved in the Brisa with the Manasseh and the Midameya. Can we learn out one from the other or not? So we have some loose ends to bring together. In other words, over here to understand what really what's the Gemora's point in talking about Rabbi Avin and Rabbi Yirmiyah. What's that have to do with anything? But of course, by the time we exert ourselves to try to figure out what Rabbi Avin says and what Rabbi Yirmiyah says, we forgot all about what was before that.
I suggest we go back and review.
Okay, right. Now that we got the separate components parts onto themselves, we have to put the parts together and see how the Gemora flows. That's the shakla of the Gemora.
Right.
To appreciate the thinking process of the Gemora over here. Okay, so okay, so let's okay, so let's start with the following question. What was the Gemora's issue over here? The Gemora's issue was we were trying to figure out this, that Rav Nachman ruled in the case that he was ruling about. Does anybody remember Rav Nachman and the case that he was ruling about? That already goes back to the time of the dinosaurs, right? Okay. Yeah. So that's on Kuftes Zion Amid Base. And
I think it's 116b6.
yeah,
Rav Huna Bar Chia said to Rav Nachman, is that the right place?
right. After Rav Nachman ruled in a certain case, one of his colleagues or students asked him, is this ruling that you've made, is that based upon a din in the Torah, or is it simply a penalty that's being imposed based upon your authority as a judge? So what did he?
Going back to 116b6, is that?
Yes, top of the right-hand column.
Yeah, actually, he didn't. They didn't ask Rav Nachman himself. Rav Nachman, that was what they didn't do. Actually, Rav Nachman's. What was the case? What was the case? The guy showed how Gavra the Achve Akaria the Chite the Bei Reish Galusa. There was a Maisa and a person showed to the mafia. He showed him the Kare Chitim of the Reish Galusa. He showed them the wheat piles that was piled up. The wheat was piled up in heaps. They said, "Here it is," and the mafia says, "Thank you very much," and they take it away from the Reish Galusa. And the Reish Galusa, when he finds out, he says, "Okay, better the wheat than me," and he thanks Hashem that they just took his wheat.
All right. So what you're reading from now is also on 116b6. It's prior to the Rav Nachman section. It's on the left-hand column.
Oh, okay. So that's the Maisa that happened that Rav Nachman was paskening on. The case was brought to Rav Nachman. I guess the Reish Galusa was had a fearless attorney, and they brought the case before Rav Nachman, and they said the mafia stole the wheat of the Reish Galusa. And so what did Rav Nachman do? He said,
Pay
it up. Now, who are we talking about that has to pay it up? We're not talking about the mafia paying up, right? We're not talking about them. We're talking about the guy that told the mafia. Okay? Right? Because there was somebody that showed the mafia that here's the wheat that you can take.
When it says he came before Rav Nachman, who's he? Is that the Rosh Galusa, or is that the man?
Oh, I would assume the Reish Galusa. I would assume the guy is not interested in pain because he he's not interested in pain.
Right. So the Reish Galusa went to court to get the guy who showed them the wheat to pay.
Yeah, right.
And Rav Nachman said yes, he has to pay. The guy who showed them has to pay.
Right. Even though he didn't steal anything, right? That's the Kiddush over here.
Right.
Right. He was. This is like a case which we would call Garmi. He was a proximate cause, or whatever you want to call it, a very big cause in the Reish Galusa's wheat being taken away. So then we got
indirect cause, right?
Well, he didn't do it with his two hands, no. Right. So now the question becomes amongst Rav Yosef over there. Rav Yosef was sitting over there, and Rav Huna Bar Chia was sitting over there, and these Chachamim are talking to themselves. They're not asking Rav Nachman. They're saying, or are they?
They are. Rav Huna Bar Chia said to Rav Nachman.
Okay, fine. They asked him directly. Yosef, Huna bar Chia Kameh, the Reb Nachman, Amar Le, Rav Huna bar Chia, Reb Nachman. Oh, so he asked Reb Nachman directly, Dina Oknasa. Your Honor, is this this ruling that's been made, is that a din Torah? Is that what the Torah says? Or is that simply a penalty that's being leveled by the court against this individual? So he said it's a Mishnah. We learned in the Mishnah, which is our Mishnah in Bava Kama. He quoted our Mishnah in Bava Kama. It says over there, Machmas Agazlin, Chayv Lahamid Lo Sada. And the Gemora says that what does this mean when it says if it was on account of the Gazlan that the property was stolen? And what does that mean that it was on account of the Gazlan? It means that he showed him the property to the mafia. And so that's what Reb Nachman said. And then he went, and then he left. Both of the Nofak. After he left, Amalei Reb Yosef, Reb Huna Berechia, my nafka lachmina. He says, what do you care whether it's a penalty or whether it's a din Torah? What are you bothering Reb Nachman with these extraneous, irrelevant questions for? And he said, no, there's a very big nafkamina. So the nafkamina is, because if it's a din Torah, so then what Reb Nachman has paskined over here is what the Torah says. That's a precedent. We can apply that in other cases. But if it's simply a penalty that Reb Nachman leveled against this individual, so then that cannot be applied. So that's what he said. Now on that, the Gemora is taking issue with what Rav Huna bar Chia said. The Gemara is taking issue with that. Is that so? So now the whole issue, really, I could have told you this in a nutshell, but I didn't remember. We had to read it all in order to remember what it says. The whole issue that the Gemara is dealing with over here is that when we have a case which is without doubt a case of knas, it's not based upon what the Torah says, black on white. It's a knas. It's a penalty that's being leveled. Can we learn out from that or not? The Gemara challenged it. Maybe we have so that's the issue of Gemara now. We brought a brisa, and the bottom line of the Gemara bringing the brisa is that what was the reason for the ruling of the brisa? Lav mishum de knasahu. Isn't it because it was based upon a penalty that was being leveled? The knasa lo gamrinin minei. And we see from this brisa that you cannot derive you can't derive from a penalty. That was the penalty that was leveled in that case, and that got nothing to do with another case. So that was the whole issue over here. And then what did we do? And so the point with that was that we had three cases of undiscernible damage, hezek shelo nicker, and we said from the fact that the Chamim had to legislate that the third case was also liable, even though the first two cases were also hezek sheno nicker, they're the same basic case. We can derive from there that a knas, you cannot learn out from the knas. If they wouldn't have legislated it, then we would not have been able to learn it out. That's why they legislated it, because you can't learn out. And so that was a proof that a knas you cannot learn out from. And on that, the Gemara said, like Lou said, no, that's not not true. The reason why the reason why the Brisa tells us that the Chachamim legislated the third case was because even though you could learn out from a knas, and even though the third case is similar to the first two in the sense that it's hezek she'eino nicker, but there is a difference between the third case and the other cases, because the third case was a case of hefsid meruba, a substantial loss, and so you can't learn out a case of which involves a substantial loss, even though it's not nicker, from the case of an insubstantial loss, or actually it's the other way around. I'm sorry about that. Right? How does the logic go? Logic goes that the case which was legislated, the first two cases were, relatively speaking, in relation to the third case, they were cases of substantial loss. So the Gemora says you could learn out from a knas, but in this case, the reason that you cannot learn out is not because, as a general rule, you cannot learn out from a knas, but you can't learn out from this case of knas because these two cases of knas involve not only hezek she'eino nicker, but they also involve a hefsid meruba, and maybe that's the reason why they ruled that hezek she'eino nicker there's compensation for. But maybe in a case which it's insubstantial damage, such as a hezek muat, so then we're not going to make any liability. So therefore, it doesn't prove that what the Brisa is talking about. It does not prove that we cannot learn out from knas. That's where we were at that juncture in the Gemora. Okay, and then the Gemora did not rest after that. There's one more. There's one more step in this chain over here. That was that the Gemora brought the teaching of Avua de Rebbe Avin. Avua de Rebbe Avin turned around the language of the Brisa, and he said that in the Rishona hayu omrim hametame v'hamedamea. Those were the cases that were chayiv. Those were the cases of indiscernible damage that the Chachamim legislated there should be liability for. And afterwards, they made a second legislation to legislate that also menasech would be chayiv. So the dynamics of the case are: why did the Chachamim need to legislate menasech? Why could they not have learned out from the first two cases that menasech is also should be compensated for? That's the question. On that, the Gemara concludes that the reason for that is because you cannot learn out from a knas. So that's where we got to at this point. At this point, we're saying you can't learn out from a knas. On that, the Gemara is saying, no, that's not a proof either. That's not a proof either. And then we went into this issue of because the Gemara thought originally like Rebbe Avin, and then ultimately it concluded that we hold like Rebbe Yirmiyah. Okay, so
sorry. Have a good day.
12:30.
Sorry.
11:30.
Okay.
Okay.
Have a good day. Thank you, Rabbi.
All the
Yeah.
best.
Question.